light years apart, but the results identical. The Colts and the Dolphins both tied for second in the AFC East. Miami's sluggish offense finally awoke 2 weeks ago, and Dan Marino took over at quarterback. He's thrown 9 touchdown passes. Defensively, the Dolphins, as usual, near the top of the NFL. Kim Bokamper here scoring on an interception last week against the Jets. Doug Pederson, he could certainly make life miserable for the Colts offense today. Baltimore quarterback Mike Pegel, he has been on his backside already 18 times this year. And with a mediocre core of receivers, the Colts offense totally dependent on the success of Randy McMillan and this man, Curtis Dickey. For the Colts to be successful, they'll need career performances from their running back tandem today against the Miami Dolphins. From a soggy Memorial Stadium in Baltimore, Maryland, today it's the Miami Dolphins versus the Baltimore Colts. Today's game is brought to you by Mazda, who invites you to experience the low-priced Mazda V2000 Sundowner. By Owens Corning, makers of pink fiberglass attic blanket insulation. And by Kmart K-Care Auto Centers, with our promise of service, value, and satisfaction. We've got it good. The Colts and the Dolphins just one game behind the Buffalo Bills. The story here today, rain began last night. It has fallen all morning long on the word here in Baltimore. We are likely to have showers continue throughout this afternoon's football game. Good afternoon, everybody. I'm Phil Stone. Working with me today here in Baltimore, former Bills and Raiders wide receiver Bob Chandler. It was a week ago when Miami totally dismantled the New York Jets while the Baltimore Colts looked totally inept against the Buffalo Bills. Question, Bob, does Baltimore have what it takes, enough horses to beat Miami?
Well, Phil, after their poor performance last week, Frank Kush has gone back to the basics, stressing the fundamentals at practice this week. On the other hand, Miami, after a great defensive performance last week, has really picked up their spirits. The thing that has really pumped life into that Miami team is the emergence of Dan Marino at quarterback. Somebody forgot to tell Dan Marino that rookie quarterbacks are not supposed to be able to play in this league. So what he's gone out and done in just 2 short weeks is become the #1 ranked passer in the AFC, completing over 60% of his passes for 528 yards and 9 touchdowns. 2 weeks does not make a quarterback, but he's off to a real fast start, Phil.
Well, there's absolutely no question about that. In fact, Bob Greasy, the former Dolphin great, now one of NBC's analysts, has told him earlier this week that, hey, Dan, it is not always going to be this easy. We're set to go. The man you're looking at, Raul Allegre, and he will kick it away. The deep man for the Miami Dolphins, number 41, Fulton Walker. Walker with a 24-yard average. Of course, he broke one for 78 yards. What a game he had last week against the Jets. 3 returns for a total of 143 yards. Fielded by the short man. And he will be down at the 30, make that the 25-yard line. It is Woody Bennett, the backup fullback. Gary Padgett brought him down. So the Miami Dolphins, this is the way they'll go today. The rookie out of Pitt, Dan Marino, who told us before today's game he loves to play in this kind of weather. Nathan and Franklin, the running backs. The receivers, Duper, Knappmore, and Dan Johnson, the tight end. The offensive line for Miami, Giesler, Kuchenberg, Stevenson Newman, and Eric Lasko. Knappmore in motion. The give, Franklin through the right side. He's into the Baltimore secondary, out near a first down, the 35-yard line. Kim Anderson, the free safety, 4th year out of Arizona State, tackles him. The defensive line for Baltimore, they utilized the 3-4. Thompson Wisniewski and Steve Parker, the rookie out of Eastern Illinois. The linebackers, Greg Braceland, Johnny Cooks, Barry Krause, and Vernon Maxwell. 7 sacks already this year. Defensive backs, Burrows, Williams, Glasgow, Kim Anderson. And I have to believe, Bob Chandler, that Marino and the Miami Dolphin offense will go after that core of secondary.
I think they will, Phil. You know, the conditions are a little suspect today, but on a day like this, the receiver really has the advantage going into his route, and it's just a matter of him having to concentrate a little bit more to catch the ball.
The field was covered up until about an hour before game time, but it is very soggy as the rains got heavier and heavier just about 60 minutes before kickoff. The give is again to Andre Franklin, and he has stacked up Barry Krause, fifth year out of Alabama, is there to bring him down. The reason you will notice that the infield portion of this field has not been sodded over yet is because the Colts have been here at home for the past 3 weeks, and the groundskeepers here in Baltimore felt that if they would have sodded early after the Orioles World Series here, that it would not have had enough time to take with the Colts playing on it every weekend. So they will sod after today's game. Colts go on the road for a couple of weeks. Marino, his first attempt of the day. It's complete. Bruce Hardy has it. He is down shy of the 45. They're setting it right on the 45-yard line. Bruce Hardy, sixth year out of Arizona State. There's one guy that Frank Kush didn't get. There are 8 Sun Devils on the Baltimore Colts roster. Of course, Kush, for 22 years, strode the sidelines at Arizona State. And 21 of those 22 years, he had winners there. Second down and 2. The ball on the 45. Franklin tries the left side, runs into his own interference, and is down very close to the first down. I think he got it. Kendall Williams and Kim Anderson combining on the stop. Bob, you hear so much when field conditions get to looking the way they do that maybe it helps the offense, maybe it helps the defense. Does it really aid anybody?
Well, you know, it's such a psychological thing. I think the team that prepares himself for the weather and the conditions mentally really has the advantage. I don't think any one team plays better, particularly in wet weather or dry weather. You know, that's really been an overplayed thing. Miami is used to playing in the rain, though, even more so than maybe Baltimore is.
The one setback now for Miami is Woody Bennett. 2 tight ends for the Dolphins on 1st and 10. That's Hardy, and it is incomplete. Check that, Mark Duper. Kim Anderson, great coverage by the Baltimore secondary, and what a game Duper had last week.
Yeah, Mark Duper has really come on strong for him this year. He's a young receiver. What he's doing here is he's running a quarter route. One thing I questioned Marino about the other day was what his reads are, and it looked to me here he was looking at Duper the whole way, and actually the coverage was pretty good by Baltimore.
Second down and 10. The ball at the 48-yard line. Marino. Joe Rose. He'll be stopped shy of the first down by a bundle, probably 5 yards shy. Greg Bracelet on the tackle. That's something you see the Dolphins do an awful lot of, dumping that pass off.
A little tight end screen there. They've sure been successful over the years using those screens. They probably run that screen as well as any team in the National Football League. Here we see Johnny Cooks coming up to make the tackle on Rose. He's a very active linebacker. That's the trait of this whole defense. They're very active and they pursue very well.
Third down and 4 as the crowd comes to life here in Baltimore. From the shotgun, Marino. Intending the pass for Nat Moore. He fell down on the cut. Excellent coverage by Nesby Glasgow. And the Dolphins unsuccessful with their possession here. And Reggie Roby will come on to attempt the first punt of this football game. Roby in his first year out of Iowa, one of Hayden Fry's charges. And boy, what a tough loss Iowa took yesterday at the hands of Michigan.
Well, they say Reggie Roby now is the biggest punter in the world.
Who's going to argue? 6'4", about 240 pounds, certainly the heaviest punter in the league. Roby with a 43-yard average. Ricky Porter, the lone man, back at the 10-yard line. End over end. And it'll go out of bounds at the 15-yard line. So the Baltimore Colts and Mike Pagel will get their first look at the football here in the first quarter with 11 minutes, 24 seconds to play. We'll be back. Here's a look at the Baltimore offensive alignment. Pagel, Dickey, McMillan, the backfield. The receivers, Booza, Butler, and Sherwin in a pretty good offensive line. Nailed down by a couple of rookies, Jim Mills and Chris Hinton. On 1st and 10 from the 15, here come the Colts. And a give right up the middle. It is Curtis Dickey. Check that, McMillan. And Bob Baumauer in on the stop. The Miami Dolphins, who normally employ the 3-4 defense because of tremendous problems at linebacker, are going with a 4-3 today. Betters, Baumauer, Charles, and Vogtkamper on the line. The linebackers, Brzezinski, Thomas, and Bowser. And the defensive secondary, Judson, Blackwood brothers, and Gerald Small. 2nd down and 6 from the 19. 3-yard drop completed. Tracy Porter, 3rd year out of LSU, and Gerald Small pounces on him. Short of the first down by about 3.
Tracy Porter is just running a little quick hitch pass. You know, they recognize a soft corner over there. They're giving him some room because he has some speed. It's a good way to pick up 5 or 6 yards, and Frank Kush is trying to throw the ball occasionally today.
Down and 2. The give is McMillan, and he has the first down and more for Baltimore.
Well, I talked to Bob Brzezinski yesterday, and I asked him what he thought about this Colt offense. And his major concern was those 2 big running backs. He said they're probably as good a tandem as there is in the league. And at that size and that speed, if Miami is not really on their toes today, they can really wreak havoc back there.
Now the Colts out of the I formation. The tailback is Dickey. The man down is McMillan. And it's Dickey. Look at the cut, right side. And he is out near the 45, possibly to the 46-yard line, before he is snowed under there by Lyle Blackwood and Bob Baumauer. Lyle Blackwood, 11th year out of TCU. And we've got a Colt down at the 42-yard line. It is Jim Mills, and that is bad news for Baltimore. He is the guy they expected to run over all day long. Of course, the matchup there, probably the best in today's game, Bob. Mills and Doug Betters for Miami.
You know, Jim Mills.
All right, we'll continue that conversation in just a moment. A timeout, 9:22 to play in the first quarter. Buffalo scoreless there against the surprising Patriots. Cleveland, Cincinnati tied at 7-all, and the Jets are ahead of Atlanta 7-0 early in the second period. Here it is scoreless, 9:07 to play in the first period. Baltimore, 2nd down and 4 at the 46. McMillan bangs his way across the midfield, trying a first down for Baltimore. Bush, for 22 years at Arizona State, made a living off the passing game. When you look at all the great wide receivers that man turned out at Sun Devil Country, he has really bent his whole philosophy around now as a coach in the pros, Bob.
He sure has. He's had to adapt to his personnel, and his personnel right now dictates a running game.
1st and 10 now at the Miami 49-yard line. Dickey. And he'll be nailed right at the line of scrimmage by Glenn Blackwood. Glenn already in his 5th year out of Texas Longhorn country.
That's what makes that Miami defense so effective, is because of the way their safeties, whether it's free safety or strong safety, these Blackwood brothers come up and they force so well. A lot of safeties aren't quite as physical as these two, and this is a very important ingredient for Miami's defense.
Well, I would assume also, Bob, that when you have an offense that does not have much of a deep threat, it allows the safeties to perhaps come and play a little closer to the line of scrimmage without having to worry about getting beat deep. That's Dickey, and he's got some running room. There's a fumble on the play. Question is, was he down before he coughed up the ball? Sherwin says he was down. It is still Baltimore's ball, but hold on while the officials unpile the heap. The rain falling even harder now.
You know, I think it's important for Coach Kush and the Colts today to at least try to throw that ball down the field. That vertical game is really important. It puts fear in the opponents, and like you said, when those safeties come up and they can become a big part of tackling there, they have to respect that passing game. And if the Colts can come out and throw a few down the field, whether they complete them or not, it's going to make their running game a little easier.
Miami has the football. like the ball is loose there.
He did. You know what's interesting is there's the ball right there on the ground. Dickey and McMillan get so many of their yards. They say almost 1/3 with second effort. What happens a lot of times on that second effort is there's 2 or 3 guys tackling the ball carrier, and that's when fumbles occur. There are a lot more fumbles this year, and it's not because they're just happening. Teams are teaching their tacklers to go for the ball. That second and third tackler has a responsibility, and that's to try and strip that ball out of there.
So the Dolphins, with their second look at the ball here in this football game, 7:33 to play in the first quarter, no score. Franklin through the left side, following Kuchenberg and John Giesler. And he's got 3, maybe 4 before Barry Krause shuts it down. This telecast is presented by the authority of the National Football League. It is intended for the private use of our audience. Any rebroadcast or other use of this telecast without the express written consent of the Baltimore Colts and the National Football League is prohibited. A gain of 3 for Miami. It is 2nd down and 7 now. Clock continues to run inside 7 minutes here in the first period. The ball on the 46-yard line. Franklin and Tony Nathan, the running backs, and now apparently some confusion on Marino's part. He calls a media timeout and wants to go talk to Don Shula. So while the Dolphins whistle a timeout, we'll take a break. 6:52 to play in the opening period. We're scoreless from Memorial Stadium. Chandler back at Memorial Stadium scores in the second quarter. It is Minnesota over Green Bay 10-3. Second quarter, Washington laying it on the Lions 21-3. And Kansas City, Houston tied 7 apiece in the second quarter. Here we are scoreless. That is Nat Moore in motion. Flags are down. Andra Franklin is down after a gain of maybe 2. And Donnell Thompson, the big defensive end on the left side, 3rd year out of Tar Heel country, there to swarm him under. And the penalty is going to be offsides, I believe, against the Baltimore Colts. And boy, Bob Chandler, penalties have killed Frank Cush's Colts this year.
Well, they're a young and aggressive team, and that's the price you pay. They've been penalized over
number 78.
They've been penalized over 59 times this year, and you know that's just too many to stay competitive week in and week out. But it is the mark of a young, aggressive football team, and you hate to take away a lot of that aggressiveness. You just have to kind of curb those mental mistakes.
They have been penalized 497 yards. Take a look at that. Conversely, the Dolphins, the least penalized team in all of football. Franklin tries the right side. He is hit in the backfield by Thompson and slowed up, and Steve Parker moves up and brings him down. To be fair to Andra Franklin, he is playing with 2 severely bruised shoulders. After last week's dismal rushing performance by the Dolphins, 51 yards and 29 carries, the least amount of yardage on the ground for a Dolphin team in 8 years. Shula said, I wasn't concerned with Franklin gaining yards. I was more concerned with him getting back to the line of scrimmage. That tells you something about your running game. Franklin got it. He did not. He'll be a good yard shy. Steve Parker, Leo Wisniewski combined on the stop. And it'll be 4th down. So the Baltimore Colts defense, much maligned coming into this game, has held again.
They really did. They got off the ball real well there. And, you know, the thing that they don't want to do is for those offensive linemen to be able to get underneath them and drive them out of there. And they didn't allow it that time. And Baltimore needs a couple of these kind of plays in the early going of this game to fire that defense up, which has really been their strong part of their performances this year.
As you can plainly see, the ball a good yard short of a first down. And here comes Mr. Roby for the second time here in the first quarter. Ricky Porter, the lone man back for the Baltimore Colts, standing at his own 10-yard line. Look at the rain falling here at Memorial Stadium. Roby standing in very, very slippery mud out around the second turns out very, very well for the Miami Dolphins. Dead inside the 5-yard line. And so for the second time in this game, the Colts will start from inside their own 20-yard line.
In the dirt part of the infield there. You know, he's only a two-step kicker as you see him here, but they say he's very deliberate. And so in the past few weeks, teams have come after him to try and block a punt. They think they can get to him.
Well, Matt Bosa, the wide receiver, almost did right there. Here comes Dickey through the left side behind Chris Hinton, and he picks up about 4 before he is snowed under. Bo Camper's there. Mike Charles is there, and so is Lyle Blackwood.
I think we're going to see Baltimore running a lot to the left this afternoon.
As you take a look at scores, Cleveland over Cincinnati at halftime, 14-7. The Jets downing Atlanta in the second period, 7-0. Here in Baltimore, it is scoreless. That's McMillan. Tries to scoot across the 10. Charles Bowser, 6'3", 232 out of Duke, there to stop McMillan.
You know, the reason I said I think we'll see them running to the left a little bit more today is they'll be running behind Chris Hinton and Carl Baldischweiler. With Mills out, it makes that right side a little bit suspect. So you can see them concentrate, I think, more on that left side this afternoon.
Well, Frank Kush told me yesterday morning, I had a chat for about an hour with him. He said if they have to use Jeff Hart, the 7th-year man out of Oregon State, they are going to be in a little bit of trouble. That's Dickey. Across the 15-yard line. Very, very close to the first down, and I believe he may have it. Again, it is Charles Bowser, and it's a first down for Baltimore.
Here we see Chris Hinton opening up the hole there. You know, whatever combination they're using on that offensive line, there's Chris Hinton, number 75 in the middle of your screen there. Whatever combinations Baltimore's got on that offensive line, it seems to be working real well so far.
Al Dickey, 5 rushes already, 20 yards, hitting a pretty decent block on the inside linebacker, Rodell Thomas. Pagel puts it up, wide open, and Butler cannot hold the ball. And listen to the boos come out in Baltimore.
Well, Butler's going to take a little heat for this because he's been a little suspect in the past in being able to make that catch. He is their big play receiver. That's why you'll see him get open on those intermediate routes. They have to respect his speed. He's a big receiver. But as Frank Kush told us yesterday, his biggest problem is his concentration and not being able to hold on to the ball.
Al Butler against the Broncos a few weeks back suffered a shoulder separation. Understand it is still a little bit tender, but if you can't catch a ball thrown right into your midsection like that, you're in trouble. 2nd and 10. Here's Dickey. Fumble, and I believe the Dolphins have it. The second turnover for the Colts this afternoon, and Bob Baumauer has covered it. So the Colts, who have stopped the Dolphins twice, are now in trouble here at their 18-yard line.
The biggest fear here is the Colts start questioning themselves. Here we see it. You know, you can go to the well so many times. Dickey and McMillan are running so effectively, and this happens. The Dolphins are very adept at stripping the ball, and when you're on the ground that much, you're going to make a few mistakes.
Credit Doug Fetters with knocking it loose. That's Nathan. He's inside the 10, near the 9. Kendall Williams stops him.
The situation Frank Kush does not want to get into today is to get behind quickly with the Dolphins. He says if he does get behind, they can't throw the ball. And it would be a very difficult, long afternoon. I think I even read somewhere where he said they should just as soon forfeit if they were behind by 2 or 3 touchdowns, which is a strange way to look at it. But they want to be competitive and stay with them so they can use their running game.
Mark Cooper to the right of your screen. Nat Moore to the other side. The give is to Franklin. He tries the middle and cracks inside the 5. It is Donnell Thompson on the stop. 2 minutes, 27 seconds to play in the opening period here at Memorial Stadium in Baltimore.
Here we have Andre Flanken. A big back has a little bit of an advantage when you're working on this real wet turf. At 220, 225 pounds, he can work on his footing. He's not making real radical cuts. He's just using his weight to make those extra few yards.
Franklin, right side. Oh boy, is he nailed. Donnell Thompson again. And say what you want about the pass rush of the Baltimore Colts and the fact that there virtually is none. But when it comes to stopping an opponent's rushing attack, Thompson, Wisniewski, and Steve Parker, three of the finest in the game.
Here we have it. You know, that's just tremendous penetration by the Baltimore's defensive line. And it looked like, there he is. Donnell Thompson is very happy about that one. He's been making some tackles the last couple weeks.
Marino with plenty of time. Wide open in the end zone is Moore. His third touchdown of the year. So the Dolphins strike first with a minute 20 seconds to play in the opening period.
Here we have it. You know, it looks like Glasgow, Barry Krause, and Johnny Cooks were all looking at each other there as Nat Moore just ran a little slant-in pattern, and there had to be a mistake in coverage on that one.
Shaman on to attempt the point after. He has 17 of 18 thus far on the year. Make that 18 of 19. So the clock stops here with a minute 20 to play in the opening period at Memorial Stadium. And it's the Miami Dolphins on a turnover by the Baltimore Colts have taken a 7-0 lead here. The outset of our telecast, Bob Chandler, their coaching style certainly light years apart.
They really are. You know, both systems can win. I think Frank Kush is up against a little bit of an uphill struggle because players aren't really used to coming into that kind of boot camp atmosphere. And he realizes that, but he needs those kind of players, and he wants those kind of players, and as he told us yesterday, he's going to stick with them.
Uwe von Schamann is set to kick it away. Kendall Williams, Ricky Porter, Alvin Moore, the three men deep for Baltimore. And it'll be Ricky Porter at the 5-yard line. He puts his head down and barrels across the 25 out near the 27-yard line. Fulton Walker brings him down. This is the third offensive series for the Baltimore Colts, and at the 27-yard line, this is their best field position of the afternoon. There you see the scoring drive. It took Miami a minute 58 seconds to go 18 yards following the fumble by Curtis Dickey. Marino, an 8-yard strike right over the middle to Nat Moore. And for Dan Marino, that is his 10th touchdown pass this year. That's Dickey. And he gets one, maybe two. Mike Charles, the rookie out of Syracuse, on the stop. Charles, I understand, loves to dance, a la Mark Gastineau. Calls it the levitation dance.
Well, I hope we get a chance to see that today. I'm not a big dancing fan, but I'd rather see a couple more guys do it than just Gastineau.
Bagel statistics not impressive thus far today. In motion, Tracy Porter to the top of your screen. That's McMillan. Look out, he will be stacked up at the line of scrimmage by Charles Bowser. No gain on the play. It'll be third down now and 6 at the 30-yard line. Bob, you can't overstate the simple fact that when you do not have a respected passing attack, it is so much easier for the defense to put together the game plan.
That's true. That's why it's almost worth it to just waste a play occasionally and throw the ball downfield.
Yeah, you heard it. The gun sounds, ending the first period of play here at Memorial Stadium, and it is the Miami Dolphins drawing first blood, 7-0 Miami. Chandler back with you here in Baltimore as we begin the second period of play. The Dolphins, after the turnover, the second by the Colts, have a 7-0 lead, and that man has to be happy. Third down and 6 now for the Colts at their own 30. Pagel to put it up. The swing pass. That's McMillan. And he
is you play with a lot of confidence. He's probably, I really expect him to have a decent day covering too if he gets the chances. Here we'll see him come up and force. Cornerbacks at his size, 180, 185 pounds, don't like to come up and force in this situation, especially against a back the size of McMillan. But here he comes up, takes his feet out from underneath him, and stops him short of the first down.
Ron Stark on to attempt his first punt of the day. Boy, does he have a great average. 46.5 yards of food, and he sails this one. Clayton at the 19. Flags are down, and Clayton is upended at the 28. Ron Stark, his longest of the year, 67 yards. He is number 2 in the AFC behind Rich Camarillo. That one traveled 45 yards. And you can believe that is going to be a clip against Miami. So we'll take the ball back from the 28-yard line. Let's listen to Ben Drake. Yep, we can't hear him. Apparently the microphone out, but the call is, if you can read lips, no foul. No foul. The return will stand. So the Miami Dolphins will have it at their own 28-yard line as they get set to go here in the second quarter. It's over Buffalo 7-0 at halftime. Cleveland, Brian Sipe, a couple of touchdown passes over Cincinnati, and the New York Jets leading Atlanta 7-0. Bruce Harper, a 78-yard touchdown run. It is 7-0 Miami here in Baltimore. And whoa boy, Tony Nathan is hit right at the line of scrimmage by Leo Wisniewski and Steve Parker.
You know, Phil, despite Dan Marino's hot hand the last couple of weeks, I don't think the weather has that much to do with the way they're running the ball today, but Miami's offensive personality over the years has been a running team. It's a great asset for them to have a quarterback, or at least feel they have a quarterback now who can put the ball up in the air and cause the big play, but they basically like to keep it on the ground.
Woody Bennett, the lone running back for the Dolphins now on second and long. Marino for time. Going deep. Cooper's got it. You just can't say enough about the magic of number 13, Dan Marino.
I've got a feeling that's a combination we're going to see a lot more of in the next few years. You know, that's just what Duper did there was use his speed and run right down the seam, and it was a perfect pass by Dan Marino, and he caught it over his head, a la Willie Mays. That's a tough catch for a young receiver like that. 64 yards and a touchdown.
Now that's quite a touchdown.
Oh, no, it wasn't.
At the 7-yard line, but they're close.
Can't see with all the mud.
That's Nathan in motion. Andre Franklin, left side. There is the touchdown, I believe. And now they're saying he is stopped short.
But we're trying to give him a touchdown anyway.
Now they're going to mark it out of bounds. The nose of the ball sniffing the goal line. Miami Dolphins, certainly over the years, Bob Chandler, have been the big play team.
This is just a tremendous second effort by Andre Franklin. He's a tough man to bring down in those conditions out there.
Second down and goal. There's Franklin. Whoa, he's stacked up. He'll lose yardage. The Colts had an idea that Franklin would try and go in over Bob Kuchenberg, and why not? Kuch, 255, 14th year out of Notre Dame. And now on third and goal, and now you're about a yard and a half shy of the goal line. What's the call, Bob?
Well, you know, in an era of situation substitution like we're in now, Baltimore has most all of their run-oriented people in there. If Marino's gutsy here, he'll do a play-action pass.
The tight end, if he puts it up. Franklin. And I think he got it. Oh, he was hit behind the line of scrimmage by Quentin Ballard, and he just couldn't get him out. Franklin dives across, and the Dolphins have another touchdown.
Well, that's why I'm not coaching. I would have thrown a play-action pass and probably had it picked off down there. we're seeing a lot of second effort today by Andre Franklin, and this is exactly what he's hit 2 yards behind the line of scrimmage and manages to shake loose, stretch out, and all he has to do is clear the plane of that goal line with the ball, which he did there before he's considered technically down.
Uwe von Schaman and Don Strock, the holder, asking the official for something. Want the ball moved over. So Dwight Stevenson obliges. It's down. Von Schaman, great elevation, and it's perfect. So with 11 minutes, 11 seconds to play in the first half, the Dolphins have scored again. It is 14-0 over the Baltimore Colts. You buy Ford and your Ford dealer. Have you driven a Ford lately? By Apple Computers and by Southern Pacific. 41,000 people working in 18 industries all across America. Showers continue to fall here over Baltimore, Maryland, as they have ever since last night. Uwe von Schaman. It'll be Porter at the 8-yard line. On his feet, flag is down. He is across the 30-yard line. Eddie Hill tackles him. And this will back the Colts up considerably. Very difficult to tell the yardage at that end of the field.
Number 64, illegal block in effect.
And it is on Ben Hutt. An illegal block. The ball will be spotted just off to the side of what is the pitcher's mound here at Memorial Stadium. Dickey McMillan, the running back. Booza split wide left. That's Dickey, and he has got running room. He's out across the 20-yard line near the 22. It'll be second down and 3. 10 minutes, 41 seconds to play here in the first half. Don't forget, stay tuned for NFL 83 at halftime. All the scores, highlights from around the league on this, the 8th weekend of the National Football League season. McMillan, check that Dickey. He has the first down, and he is hammered in the mud. I don't care how many years you've been around, Bob. You played 12 years. Did you like playing in the muck?
Well, no, you know, some of the linemen and linebackers do, but half the wide receivers' battle is looking good. And see, this mud makes you real dirty. And I hated it because I didn't look good. And once I was muddy, I didn't look fast anymore.
And probably didn't feel real fast.
Well, I never felt real fast.
First and 10 now. The ball on the 30 out of the I formation. Tight end in motion. Sherwin, play action. Pagel puts it up. Booza has it. It's the first completion to a Colts wide receiver today.
Well, that's an important step for this offense because one of the fundamentals that Frank Kush said he was getting back to was to try and keep Mike Pagel in the pocket so he at least gives his receivers a chance to get open. He was pressured here, so he had to move out of the pocket, but he was looking downfield rather than thinking about running, and he completed it to Matt Booza. They need Mike to sit in that pocket a little bit more when he has the chance and pick out those open receivers.
McMillan, is he stopped at the line. And he got bent over backwards. Mike Charles, who is starting because of the absence of linebackers for the Miami Dolphins, is in on the stop.
Well, we didn't see Mike's dance there, but he did throw up one arm. So he got started with it, but since it wasn't a sack, we didn't see him go into the whole thing.
Would you dance in this weather?
No, I wouldn't.
Second down. Call it 10. Booza and Butler split out. Play action. Pagel. Little screen pass to the tight end, Sherwin. And he dives to the 40-yard line, and he is Someone took somebody on helmet to helmet. But it will go for naught. The first down nullified. Oh, Baltimore, if they're not putting it on the ground, they're killing themselves with penalties, averaging 7 penalties a game for 75 yards a game. That is incredible.
Holding, number 68.
And it's whistled against Jeff Hart, who was filling in for an injured Jim Mills.
Well, it's too bad because it's a very effective screen, something that Baltimore has not been able to do too often this year. Tim Sherwin has a great individual effort here. He picks up a couple of his blockers, run behind them, then leaves them, and does it all out Superman.
And the man he took on helmet to helmet, the inside linebacker, another linebacker from Miami, Rodell Thomas, will take a seat. Downfield, and it is almost picked off. Intended for Tracy Porter. He almost found William Judson, who last week against the Jets had 3 interceptions in the second quarter.
That's why I said I think he'll be playing with a lot of confidence now. So much of this game is mental, and a guy comes off of a good performance like that, he feels he can start covering anybody. He starts taking a few chances, and it pays off. And there it was a very good defensive play on that play.
Third down and 20, and take a look where the ball will be spotted, right in the middle of the goop. 6 defensive backs now for the Dolphins. Small, Blackwood, Langford, Glenn Blackwood, Kozlowski, and William Judson. Pagel throws, picked off. Langford, the 6th defensive back, is down at the 47-yard line. Pagel was looking for Tracy Porter. For Mike Pagel, his 9th interception of the year. So the 3rd turnover for Baltimore. It comes with 8:10 to play in the first half.
Porter getting ready on that route. The problem is Mike Pagel was looking at him the whole way. Miami converged on him, and it really was no chance. The ball was thrown so high that we really didn't even get a chance to see it in the screen. And there Paul Langford picks off his first career interception.
Now Langford perfected his craft about 75 miles from here under the watchful eye of Joe Paterno at Penn State. Here's Franklin trying on the right side. He picks up maybe 3. Donnell Thompson, 3rd year out of North Carolina with help from Johnny Cooks. Now that's the story today. The Colts with 3 turnovers. That coupled with the fact that very, very untimely penalties against Baltimore have cost them 2 first downs. 2nd down and 8. The ball at the 49-yard line. 7:34 to play in the second quarter. The give is David Overstreet, and he is hit at the line by Barry Krause. Now Frank Kush told us yesterday, Bob, that his Colts just don't have, number 1, enough talent, number 2, enough experience to rebound once they have mental or physical breakdowns.
Yeah, they've really been counting on big plays this year and to try and play as much mistake-free as they can, which obviously they haven't been able to, and which has been the story today also.
Shotgun for the Dolphins. Marino. Right over top. He's got a receiver, and it is Duriel Harris, and Greg Graceland splashes down. Check that Nap Moore.
Here we have Marino coming out of the shotgun, which really is pretty good for a young quarterback, because standing back there in the shotgun, it gives him an opportunity to look at the whole field without having to drop back and get reads. And he picked up Nat Moore for a first down.
1st and 10 now at the 38. Inside handoff. That is Tony Nathan, and he has got big yardage. Another first down. Near the 27-yard line. Clock running, 5:59 to play, a second quarter. It is Miami 14. The Colts Colts nothing.
Well, this is the time Baltimore on defense really has to regroup and come up with a big play. I think the worst thing that can happen, obviously, is that they get behind 21 points here so early in the game.
Nathan and Bennett are the running backs. First and 10. And flags fly.
All start offense.
And I believe it was against Bob Kuchenberg.
Number 67.
It is the 14-year veteran. Take a look, Bob, where that ball is spotted. Halfway in the muck, halfway in the grass. That's got to make it tough if you're center Dwight Stevenson. First down now and 15 at the 32-yard line. That's Nathan. Steve Parker, rookie out of Eastern Illinois. Scores around the league. It is Washington over Detroit 28-3. That game now early in the third period. Kansas City has taken a 10-7 lead over Houston. And it is Chicago over the Philadelphia Eagles 7-0. Vince Evans hit Dennis McKinnon from 20 yards out. Second down, 11. Marino. They put it up. Goes deep. Touchdown. Mark Duper.
I think he's going for his over his 200-yard record today. We just have Duper running up the sidelines here. You know, it's just a flat-out great throw by Marino. He makes a good. Actually, he's not bad coverage here. You just can't set it in there any better. He had a time to get both his feet in, and for a young receiver, that's pretty alert play. He did tap them both down before he went out of the back of the end zone.
From 28 yards out on 2nd and 11, Marino, his second strike of the afternoon. Von Schaman from the hold of Don Strock. It's perfect. And the Miami Dolphins doing to the Colts exactly what Frank Kush had nightmares about yesterday. 4:44 to play in the first half, and it is Shula's boys on top 21-0.
Tapped his feet in, but I was a little remiss there. As we see it here, one foot actually does come down outside, and so it really wasn't a touchdown.
But the officials have called it a TD, and it will stand. Whoa, boy. Von Schaman lets it fly, and boy, is the rain starting to come heavy now. Ricky Porter will bring it out of the end zone. And he runs into a pack, dives across the 20-yard line. So the Colts will have it, maybe at the 21. The rain is really coming down here in Baltimore. They expected somewhere around 42, maybe 45,000 today. Bob, it's safe to say that the inclement weather has kept a few people at home.
I think so.
Bagel statistics, 50% today for 30 yards, no touchdowns, and a couple of miscues. Booza and Butler, the wideouts. Pagel, out of necessity, has to put it up, and it is batted down at the line by Doug Betters. What more could you ask from the big left defensive end for Miami? 10 sacks, number 1 in the NFL. He batted down a Richard Todd pass last week that Bo Camper picked off and ran it in, and he gets another one here today, as well as forcing a fumble in the first period on Curtis Dickey. Second and 10, the ball on the 20. 6'7", 250 pounds, out of Nevada, Reno. Time remaining in the first half. Don't forget, stay tuned here to NBC. NFL 83 will update you on scores and highlights around the league. Cleveland leading Cincinnati in the Battle of the Buckeye State, 21-14. That game now in the third period. Cincinnati trying for their second victory of the year. Third down and 8. 6 defensive backs for Miami. Pagel throws complete. Bernard Henry, the only clean uniform on the field, comes down with the ball. Well, don't you know that has to wake you up a little bit?
His uniform used to be clean, Phil. Now it's getting to where it looks like he's been playing a little bit. You know, here again, Miami pressured Pagel real well here. He ducked under their oncoming rush and managed to hit Bernard Henry over in the flat there. He has to do that, and that's what they want him to do. If he has to scramble, continue looking downfield and try and pick up those receivers.
First and 10, Baltimore out of the I formation. Play action, Pagel with time. Now throws. That's Curtis Dickey, and he has it. Another big pickup. 10 yards and another first down for Baltimore. Look at Curtis Dickey.
Curtis Dickey in this situation is what you call a little outlet receiver. If everybody else is covered, Pagel will get back to him. Here he is kind of sloshing around in the mud, waiting and trying to stay in that open hole and not run into coverage, which he did a very good job of there.
Another first down for the Colts. At their own 46-yard line, 2 minutes, 18 seconds to play. Out pattern. That's Alvin Moore. He's got it. Out of bounds. The clock. A pickup of 8 yards on the play. So the Colts, for the first time in this ball game, are beginning to put together on offense.
Well, I like this offense. You know, Pagel is doing a very good job. When he has to scramble, he's picking out his receivers. There he looked over and saw a soft corner out there, picked up 7-8 yards. They have to continue to do this. They can't keep going to the well, which is the running game, because they're really running out of time already in this game.
Alvin Moore and Randy McMillan are the running backs. Tim Sherwin now shifts and sets. The give is to McMillan. He fumbles it and recovers it, I believe. So McMillan, motoring around the left side, just lost grip of the football.
In all deference to these guys, that football is pretty slippery at this stage, and you know, he's looking as he gets the handoff from Pagel. As he gets the handoff from Pagel, you know, he's looking, he's trying to maneuver, and there's the ball is stripped. It's a tough thing to hang on to when that ball gets so slippery out there. But he does manage to recover it and avoid what could have been a very costly turnover for Baltimore.
We have reached a 2-minute warning here in the first half. Miami with a 21-0 lead over the Baltimore Colts. NBC News will present a special report on the tragedy in Beirut, Lebanon early today. Stay tuned. All the latest information. Here in Baltimore, it is 3rd down and 5. 2 minutes to play, first half. Pagel. Plenty of time. And now it breaks down, and the man bringing him down, Doug Betters, his 11th sack of the year. Betters thought he might have a tough afternoon going up against Jim Mills, but with Mills out injured, he has taken on a guy by the name of Jeff Hart, who, quite frankly, not in Jim Mills' league.
Betters has been having a great year so far. Pagel stands in the pocket here. We see Betters coming in against Hart, and he really nowhere to go. He had 5 receivers downfield. It was an obvious pass situation. Miami had good coverage, and there just wasn't time to throw.
Ron Stark, his second punt of the day. His first one sailed 45 yards in this dismal downpour. And now we've got to delay a game against the Colts. And I don't think they were looking for that, because now Ray Donaldson will have to snap the ball from the middle of the goop. And that is
Delay
got to be
the game
tough.
offense.
You know, it's probably easier, though, for the center to snap it in the mud than it is for Stark to have to stand in it. He gets a little better footing now and has a chance to get off a decent kick.
And now Ben Dreith will throw out the football. He wants another one. So Stark is on grass. We're going to show you the hang time of this punt, how long Stark keeps it in the air, allowing his special teams to get downfield. Mark Clayton is the deep man for Miami at his own 17-yard line. Dreith wants to dry off the ball.
It's funny, you know, those balls get pretty heavy in weather like this, too. That's why they have to continually keep changing them, not only because they're wet and slippery, but when they get waterlogged, they get heavy.
There's the hang time. A good punt. Clayton fields it way above his head at the 15, and he is, whoa, is he hammered out of bounds at the 25. Greg Braceland taking no prisoners on Mark Clayton. So the Dolphins will have the ball with 1:10 to play in the first half. It has been all Don Shula and the Dolphins, 21-0 over the Colts. Mistakes, penalties have crippled the Baltimore offense. And you talk about rain, oh, we've got it for you today. It is coming harder now than it has all day long. Marino will keep it himself, just trying to get the clock to run out. You can be certain.
You know, as hard as it's been raining, the grass portion of the field still looks in pretty good shape. It's not accumulating water anywhere, and the footing really doesn't look too bad yet. It's the muddy area that looks horrible.
Second down and 10. Seconds to play in the first half. Marino again will just lay down. And the clock is stopped. Baltimore on 3rd and 10. They'll try and get the ball back. You got to love their spirit.
Yeah, you do. I mean, that shows you that they don't think they're out of the game yet, and they're really not. Frank Kush told us how tough it is for them to come back and try and throw the ball in a catch-up situation. You know, what did he say this week? If he has to, if it becomes a throwing contest, it'll be a calamity, and Jane won't be there. I think I read that several times this week. Well, that's the situation he's got here today for himself.
Now you saw Marino's numbers, just short of spectacular for the rookie quarterback out of Pitt. I told you before today's game, when he came out and looked at this field, he said, hey, I love this kind of weather. Of course, he cut his teeth on this kind of weather right down the road here a piece.
That's a typical example, though, of a player trying to convince himself that he enjoys going out in a day like this. I've never met any player in his right mind who liked to play in the rain, but when I saw Marino before the game, he had a big smile on his face, and he said, I love this kind of weather. I'm used to it. So maybe he believes himself.
29 seconds to play. Now you look at Don Shula. And what does the future have in store for Don? That is the question that perhaps Shula doesn't even know at this point. There's Andre Franklin. He'll go around the left side, and he is hammered right there by Randall Tate, who's picked up. Clock continues to run. 19 seconds, and now it's stopped. It'll be 4th down, a punting situation for the Miami Dolphins. Reggie Roby coming on. For Roby, his 3rd attempt of the day. And Ricky Porter would like nothing more than to break a good return here with 19 seconds left. His longest of the year, 50 yards, averaging about 10 yards per punt return. Roby, interesting story about Reggie at Iowa. He was sort of a designated punter. They had 2 in Hawkeye country. When they needed a boomer, they sent in this man, Reggie Roby. When they were looking for a short punt, they had another guy that kicked it away. Oh, almost blocked. And Porter will call for the fair catch. And he's got it. Vernon Maxwell came within about 6 inches of getting a hand on that punt. So the Colts will have it with 12 seconds to play at their own, call it 26-yard line. It's very, very, again, we say it's very difficult to tell exactly where the ball is spotted. Now they're putting it on the 30. Pagel. Dump pass. That's McMillan. 6 seconds. 5 seconds. McMillan is down. And the Colts call an instantaneous timeout with 2 seconds to play. Colts not dead yet. Bob, you said something yesterday when we were talking to Frank Kush that I found rather interesting. You were saying that the Colts are so young that they don't really understand or accept when perhaps they should be out of a ball game.
Well, that's a fear that a lot of teams that play the Colts have in mind. You know, it isn't that veterans quit when they realize the game is lost, but there is a difference there. This team is so young and so aggressive, and Frank Kush has instilled so much fear into them that they'll never quit, regardless of the score of the game. They'll keep coming at you. So Miami has to be careful not to get overconfident and let down at all, or the complexion of this game could change drastically.
Time expired. Pagel will have one last shot, and he'll have to run it. And oh, is he running it? And he is finally knocked out of bounds by Charles Bowser. Glenn Blackwood slowed him up. And time expires here as the Baltimore Colts unquestionably moving the ball better on that possession than anywhere else in the first half. That's the end of the first half score. Miami 21, Baltimore nothing. We'll be going to NFL 83 right after this.
Welcome back to New York. Glenn Berman for NFL 3. Has a rookie quarterback ever had his first 3 starts as effective as Dan Marino has had? They don't keep records of such things, but it's hard to think of any quarterback as hot as Marino has been in his first 3 starts. Of course, all the other quarterbacks haven't had Super Bowl teams and Don Shula for coaches either. All right.
Memorial Stadium here in Baltimore. Heavy rain continuing to fall here at Memorial Stadium. It is the Miami Dolphins 21, the Baltimore Colts nothing. Halftime statistics much more even than you might expect. Certainly, it is the Baltimore Colts on the short end of a 21-0 score. Boy, you take a look at the statistics, Bob Chandler, and it would not indicate that wide a margin. Well,
turnovers have been the key here today, and Baltimore has turned the ball over 3 times, as you can see there, and Miami was able to capitalize on that and turn it into scores.
Only talking about 7 yards, total yards difference. Passing, Marino 7 of 11. For the Colts, Pagel 6 of 8. But as you said, Bob, turnovers, the real story here. Early on in the ball game, Dickey coughed it up twice. On the first turnover, it was a 8-yard pass. Marino to Nat Moore made it 7-0. And then Duper. Boy, what can you say about Mark Duper in his second year? Last year, he played in only 2 games because of injuries. This year, he gets a break because Duriel Harris got in Don Shula's doghouse early. Duper had a big 64-yard reception and a 24-yard touchdown catch.
Well, he's done an extremely good job for a rookie. You know, here we see him here on his touchdown catch. And, you know, keeping your feet in when you catch the ball is as important as catching the ball. Here he gets away with it, but he won't get away with this too often. And it's a sign of a young receiver. He had enough time to make sure both his feet were in. It goes down in the books as a touchdown, but in actuality it wasn't.
What's amazing about Mark Duper, he has 2 catches for 92 yards. That is an average of 46 yards a catch here in Baltimore today. And keep in mind, rain has been falling and will continue to fall, we are told, throughout the second half. Question is, what does Baltimore have to do now to turn things around?
Well, Frank Kush's nightmare came through. What he was most worried about was getting behind like this and having to throw the ball. So we're going to see how they can handle it in the second half, and if they can, regroup.
We talked to Frank Kush, and in a moment we'll hear what he has to say. But right now, we'll be back after these messages from your local station. Stay Stay with us. Certainly hurt the Baltimore Colts here today. You know, Bob, I had a feeling that might happen. So before today's game, I asked Baltimore head coach Frank Kush what he would do if he found his Colts down big to the Dolphins at halftime.
Well, I think it's not a matter of horses, more so a matter of strategy. And I think what happens eventually, the opposition is aware of what our weaknesses may be, whether it's secondary or whether it's just, as you mentioned, the lack of physical strength. And I think it has caught up to us in the previous ball games. And as I tell our players, the only thing we can do is continue to give it the type of an effort that we have done in the past and hope for the breaks. And the key to our winning is certainly us not making any mental mistakes. And if we can do that type of a thing and sustain a great physical effort, then I think we have an opportunity.
Well, as Frank Kush said, if you make mental mistakes, it is going to hurt. But when you've got a team as young as his Colts, it hurts bad. Realistically, Bob Chandler, do the Colts have a shot at coming back against the Dolphins in the second half?
Well, realistically, I don't think so, because what they're looking at is they're looking at trying to do what is their weakest area, throw the ball and move it down the field. What they're also looking at is a very mistake-free Miami defensive team. They're the kind of team that doesn't let a team come back and score 21 or 28 points on them in the second half.
But in the second quarter, the Colts made their biggest move late in the second period when they were putting the ball in the air. And I think the reason for that was the Miami defensive secondary was playing so close to the line of scrimmage to cut down McMillan and Dickey.
Yeah, they were. And now they're going to be able to key in a little bit more on what Baltimore is going to be trying to do, and it's going to be just that much tougher for them in the second half.
The Miami Dolphins and the Baltimore Colts playing perhaps for a share of first place in the AFC Eastern Division. As you saw at halftime here on NFL 83, the Patriots leading the Buffalo Bills at Buffalo 7-0 early in the third period. So we're just about set to go. The Baltimore Colts will receive the Miami Dolphins, we assume, will defend the goal on your right. Check that on your left, and they will. Miami got on the board late in the first quarter following a Curtis Dickey fumble, an 8-yard strike from Marino to Nat Moore, his 10th touchdown pass of the year. And then early in the second quarter, a 64-yard strike, Marino to Duper. That took it to the 7-yard line. 4 plays later, Franklin on a 1-yard scoot made it 14-0. And then Duper again, 28 yards from the rookie out of Pitt, Dan Marino. And that is where we stand. It is 21-zip Dolphins. Uwe von Schaman will boot it away. Ricky Porter, Kendall Williams, and Alvin Moore. The 3 men deep for Baltimore, and we are underway. Second half action from Memorial Stadium. It'll be Porter at the 1. He's out across the 20-yard line near the 21, and they slosh down. Well, the Colts offensive alignment will come back out. Bagel trots out. He'll have McMillan and Dickey, the running backs.
Now this ball, coming down on these kickoffs, that ball is even tougher to catch. And here, takes his eye off it a little bit, manages to pick it up. And oftentimes you get a big return in a situation like that, but he managed to get it back out to the 20.
There's Dickey, big hole, left side. Mike Charles, combining with Charles Bowser on the stop. Now Dickey, the game's leading rusher at halftime, 10 carries, 40 yards. There's a look at the defensive line. Again, the Dolphins employing the 4-3 defense. A.J. Douay not playing today. He was questionable right up to kickoff with that pulled groin muscle. 2nd and 7. Again, Dickey fighting his way. He gets 3, maybe 4 more, shy of the first down by a couple.
We mentioned earlier that Miami actually likes to play that 3-4. Coach Coach Arnsparger, their defensive coordinator, feels that it's a much more mobile kind of defense. They can adjust and move with the motion that an offense gives them. They're better at pass defending also. But with the injuries that they've had there, they've been forced to go in this 4-3 today, and it's not their favorite kind of defense.
On 3rd and 3, Pagel to put it up, and he was throwing for Mac Busa, and the pass of Porter.
Well, Busa was open, but I think Mike was just a little bit tentative there. He didn't set his feet. He is kind of, to his credit, he's moving around in some slot back there, but he didn't take the time to set his feet, which Frank Kush has been working with him all week on doing, and consequently threw the ball low.
Stark on the punt, and we'll take a look at the hang time, how long that ball stays in the air. Oh, this is a beauty. Mark Clayton at the 17, 4.5 seconds in the air. And Clayton still on his feet. Good return out at the 32-yard line.
You know, with punters this strong, hang time is important because oftentimes they can outkick their coverage. And so that was what they've been concerned about with Stark, and here he gets it up and gives them a chance to get underneath it.
Todd Chandler, as you look on at Don Shula, man that has certainly had his hands and mind full of a whole lot more than football here in the past few weeks. Marino to Bruce Hardy, and he is rolled under at the 35-yard line. Glasgow and Barry Krause combined on the stop.
Phil, you know, you hear a lot about how important third down situations are. You know, I think the most important down in football now has become first down. Because if you can pick up 5 or 6 and put yourself into a situation where defensive teams don't know if you're going to run or throw the ball, you avoid that situation substitution, and it gives you the upper hand.
Now Shula coined the phrase, calls it winning on first down, getting 4 yards or more on first down. False start on Marino, I believe. He pulled away from the center.
Quarterback, offense.
So make it second down now and 12. Now you look at the number 50 on the back of all the Dolphins helmets. It is in memory of the late Larry Gordon, linebacker who fell victim to a heart attack last June in Arizona, and that was just the beginning of the linebacking woes for this Dolphin ball club. Marino, look at that protection, all the time in the world. Oh, look at this, wide open is Mark Duper, and they're saying he was out of bounds. Good call by the side judge.
Well, as we mentioned at halftime, a receiver has to be schooled at this, and he has to consciously think about it all the time. And I had mentioned earlier that Mark Duper would not be given a few calls every once in a while, and here it isn't that difficult a job. He makes a good catch. He's concentrating on the ball, and it's not that tough in that situation to try and make an effort to get both feet in, which he didn't do there.
Now Duper did not play any high school ball at all in Louisiana because his high school didn't have football. Marino, swing pass. And Tony Nathan is dropped immediately by Nesby Glasgow.
I like the way Dan Marino stands in that pocket. He drops back. He's about, they say he's 6'3". When I stood down with him yesterday, he looked about 6'4", 6'5" to me. But he's a good-sized quarterback, and he can stand in there and look over the entire field.
And when you've got offensive linemen that stand 6'4", 6'5", 6'5", and 6'4", it certainly helps to be tall so you can see over those monsters. Roby lets it fly. Ricky Porter will get a chance to feel it. And there's just a great bit of pursuit by Robert Sowell, rookie out of Howard. Because if Porter turns the corner, he is off to the races. A 46-yard punt will be back.
Raider rampage from L.A. and the New York Jets blast off against the tough San Francisco 49ers. Plus other regional action only on NBC.
A surprise at Buffalo. The New England Patriots have just taken a 14-0 lead over Buffalo.
That's where Derek Ramsey has scored 2 touchdowns, and they acquired might be. They probably had some type of a zone combination over here. Sherwin picks it up, and he's been doing a lot of moving after. He makes the catch, but he does a lot of this after the ball. He runs pretty well. This is the second time we've seen him today make a couple of pretty good moves and pick up some extra yardage.
And the man he got past, a pretty good defensive back by the name of Glenn Blackwood. Pagel, troubled, pressure there by Bob Baumauer, and Doug Fetters with his second sack today, his 12th on the year. And after the big gain by the Colts, the Dolphins come right back and stick them. That has to do something for your defense, Bob, once you've given up the big play to come back now and put the hammer on somebody.
And Miami's so good at doing that. They'll give you a big play once in a while, but generally they can come back and put the stopper in next time.
Pagel on 2nd and 13. There's the screen. That's McMillan. And he will not turn the corner. Banged out there by William Judson. Judson, sort of an interesting story. Now in his second year out of South Carolina State, tends to play a type of peaks and valleys type game.
Well, that defensive backfield position, that corner is probably one of the toughest to play in the game. I mean, you're really out there on an island week in and week out. And I've seen some very good ones. One that I played with Lester Hayes with the Raiders. The key there is becoming consistent, like you said. Lester has his moments also, but good ones take chances, and when they take chances, they'll make a few mistakes.
Now, you hung a few good ones out to dry a few times. Third down and 13 now from the 49-yard line. Big play here for Baltimore. Knocked down by Charles Bowser. What a game Bowser is playing today. There's Bowser, 6'3", 232, come after Pagel, who's about 6'1 and a half. You talk about the linebacker woes of the Miami Dolphins. Larry Gordon, of course, passing away in June. Steve Scholl out with torn ligaments. Hester out. Larry Evans gone. Emmett Tilley, a separated shoulder. Ernie Rowan, pneumonia. He's missed the last two. Mark Brown is gone. A.J. Due. Stark, pretty decent punt with that footing. Fair catch at the 10-yard line. A little bit of extracurricular activity there by Ricky Jones. So the clock is stopped. 10:25 to play in the third period. All over the Lions, 38-10. Kansas City and Houston deadlocked 10-all in the fourth. And Chicago, with an Evans to Dennis McKinnon touchdown early in the fourth period, has made that stand up. Here, it is 21-0 Miami. Andre Franklin, sweep left, and the Colts smell it out. Barry Krause on the tackle. It'll be 2nd and long for Miami.
You see Ron Stark in the mud here. He took a little bit of his hang time off. We didn't catch the hang time, but it's so tough to get footing down there. He took a little bit of the hang time and kicked more of a line drive to get the distance.
There's a rollout right. Marino, little dump pass. Woody Bennett out of the backfield. Sanders Shivers on the stop. Score out of Lambeau Field in Green Bay. The Minnesota Vikings leading the Packers 17-10. It was 17-3 until a few moments ago when Lynn Dickey hit John Jefferson.
Green Bay, I think, takes every other week off, Phil.
Well, they must after that tremendous victory last Monday over Washington. Nathan in motion. That's Bennett, left side. And again, the Colts defensive line shuts it down. You look at Baltimore's defensive line of Donnell Thompson, Leo Wisniewski, and Steve Parker. Those three linemen are in the top 5 tacklers on Baltimore's Baltimore's defensive alignment. Very rarely do you see that. Usually it's the linebackers who figure prominently in the leading tacklers.
I think they're so busy tackling, though, they're not getting to the quarterback and pressuring him, which has been their big problem this year, and that's why their defensive backfield has been so suspect.
Third down and 10 now from the 22. First down and 10, check that. That's Woody Bennett diving out near the 24. Let's head to New York for this update.
Thank you, Phil Stone. Elsewhere in the AFC East, does this score sound familiar? Tony Collins, 50 yards for the Patriots, 21-0. Patriots surprising the Bills. Same score as your game. Back to you, Phil.
Thank you, Len Berman. I suppose that score in Buffalo, not terribly surprising after what the boys did to the San Diego Chargers a week ago at Foxborough. Marino out-patterned. And that is Steph Moore, and boy, is he leveled. James Burrow, the first time he's been in on the action this afternoon. Short of the first down by maybe 3.
That quick out is a pretty effective pass to use in these kind of conditions. The quarterback takes a 3-step drop, so he gets rid of the ball pretty quick. He's not asking his offensive lineman to protect too long. And the real advantage is the defensive back, because the footing is bad, can't come up and cover on that quick move that Nat Moore put on him there on that 7-yard out.
Well, if you have just joined us, it has been raining here in Baltimore since late last night. A steady, heavy shower throughout this ballgame. Third and short. First down. That is Tony Nathan. Just a straight-ahead dive series. 6 minutes, 37 seconds to play in the third quarter at Shea Stadium in New York. After the Jets took a 21-0 lead over Atlanta, look here. Bartkowski, a couple of touchdown passes to Billy Johnson and William Andrews, and a Billy Johnson punt return of 71 yards, and the Falcons have drawn even. Close games throughout the league this afternoon. David Overstreet in the backfield now. Marino unloads, and it is out of bounds again, Mark Duper, and as you have mentioned a couple of times, Bob Chandler, that is something the second-year man out of Northwest Louisiana must improve upon.
Well, I haven't found too many things he needs to work on. I can't criticize any of his performances over the last couple of weeks, but that is one aspect of the game that is oftentimes overlooked by even some very, very top receivers in the game. And it's an aspect that he's going to have to work on and concentrate on, because those catches that he's been called out on are very catchable balls for him.
Now Jimmy Jensen is into the ball game, and he is the trick play man. He's number 11. The give. That's Overstreet, and he dives out across the 35 near the 38.
They were hoping to use David Overstreet a lot more this year, and he came down from Canada, had some problems fumbling the ball, and talking to them yesterday, they felt that he's kind of just psyched out himself. So I think Shula is trying to work him in slowly and use him enough to where he starts slowly getting his confidence back, because he is a quality runner, and I know they wanted to use him to give Tony Nathan a spell a little bit more this year.
Don Shula in his 21st year as a head coach in the National Football League. Spent 7 of those years here in Baltimore and never had a losing season. Marino under pressure. And it is tipped way back there by Randall Tate. Mark Duper, the intended receiver. I'll tell you, credit the Baltimore Colts line and linebackers with great pressure on Marino. And here's Reggie Roby to come on. Now, if that score holds in New England, at Buffalo, where the New England Patriots hold a 21-0 lead over the Bills, and if this one holds here in Baltimore, Buffalo and Miami deadlocked for first place in the AFC East. It. pretty decent. That is Porter at the 20. And oh, is he hit and the ball pops loose. Porter was absolutely annihilated by Robert Sowell. A 41-yard punt by Roby. Both Porter and Sowell are down. Very slow getting up. Sowell now with help from teammates. Kuchenberg is now walking off the field. Ricky Porter being held up right there in the front of your screen, on the left of your screen, by Matt Bouza. And the Colts retain possession.
Sowell is one of their best special teams players. What do they call the suicide squad, which is so important. And here we see him coming in. Porter's struggling a little bit there, falling forward, and Sowell really hits him hard. You know, you get in those pileups down there, and it's amazing how the strong-arm guys are trying to grab the ball. Baltimore was fortunate in that situation to be able to come up with it.
5:05 to play in the third. It is Miami 21, the Colts nothing. For Colt organization, and the man they're looking at right now is Mike Pagel. 5:05 to play in the third quarter. Little hitch pass. That is Dickey. He could not hold on. Pass incomplete. Now, I asked Cush yesterday if he planned to use the screen or the draws much today. And he said they just can't do it.
Yeah, he's attempted to use the screen a few times a day with Tim Sherwin, the tight end, but it's just something that they haven't perfected yet. Although it looks very easy on your screen watching the teams run those screens, they are very difficult to perfect, and it takes time, and he feels he hasn't been able to do it yet.
Second down and 10. Draw play that time was good to Curtis Dickey. And a big gain. It'll be third down. New England on the board again late in the fourth quarter. Freddie Steinfort, a 22-yard field goal. 24-0 now. The Patriots over the Buffalo Bills. Just when you thought the Patriots were down and out a couple of weeks ago, they left here 2-4, losing to Baltimore. Curtis Dickey with just a straight-up helmet in the chest tackle by Glenn Blackwood. Patriots went home and knocked off the Chargers a week ago and are now nailing division-leading Buffalo in the fourth quarter at Buffalo. You played in Buffalo for a few years. That's a tough stadium for the opposition to win in.
It is, but you know what? Buffalo has historically had problems with New England, especially when New England wasn't having a good year at times. New England plays Buffalo very tough and does it year in and year out.
First and 10, 3 minutes, 40 seconds to play in the third. Pagel looking for Henry, and it is knocked away. And the fans here want a pass interference call on Gerald Small. Bush with his hands up in the air, and they'll not get the interference call.
Actually, it's a very good play by Gerald Small. You know, as I stood up here and watched that play develop, Pagel dropped back in the pocket. He stayed there, but what he didn't do was he didn't anticipate what Bernard Henry was going to do. And he threw, consequently, he threw about just a half a second too late. And I saw it, to be able to complete that kind of a pass in those conditions, you have to anticipate where the receiver is going to be and get rid of the ball a little bit sooner. Almost throw it before the receiver looks back at you.
Probably the guy that does that better than anybody else, Bob, would be Dan Fouts of the San Diego Chargers.
That's why they are so effective. What? We'll get back to it in a minute.
Bouza. Oh, and he almost had it. Gerald Small again right there on Matt Bouza. But as Small went past, had Bouza been able to control it, he may have had a touchdown. We pause briefly for station identification. This is the NBC Television Network.
This is South Florida 7, WSVN, Miami, Fort Lauderdale.
Roger Carr said with the Chargers out there that he has never seen Dan Fouts throw a ball. So that tells you that he's throwing it while these guys are still in their patterns, which is something that you have to do to get some of these defensive backs off your back.
Now You talk about defensive backs. The Colts have 6 in there right now. On 3rd and 10, Pagel. It is knocked down at the line of scrimmage. And Doug Betters is the guy who got his hand on the ball.
You know what's interesting is Betters, Bokamper, and Bumhauer are all over 6'5". And you know when a defensive lineman is that tall, to be effective, he doesn't really even have to get to the quarterback. He only has to get near the quarterback. When you're talking about a defensive lineman that's 6'1 or 6'2, to be effective, they have to almost make the sack. But these guys have knocked down more balls today and in the past because of their height.
Ron Stark on to kick it away. 3 minutes, 25 seconds to play here in the 3rd period. Mark Clayton is the only man off the line of scrimmage for the Dolphins. Now Stark has the green light anytime he wants to pull up and throw the ball. He tried it in Cincinnati and nearly completed a long pass. This time Stark will kick it away. Oh, he sails one. Clayton, fair catch at the 20-yard line. Ricky Jones right there to cover it. A 46-yard punt for the Colts. Miami has the ball at the 20-yard line. They own a 21-0 lead in the 3rd period. This is devotion. A driving rainstorm here in Baltimore. At Cincinnati, the Bengals have won the Battle of the Buckeye State, beating the Browns today 28-21. Inside handoff, Tony Nathan has it out across the 24 near the 25. Donnell Thompson on the stop. Other scores, they are in overtime at Houston, where Kansas City and the Oilers deadlock at 10 apiece. And Chicago has defeated Philadelphia 7-6 at the Vet. Touchdown, Vince Evans to Dennis McKinnon, held up. Here at Memorial Stadium, it's the Dolphins 21, the Colts nothing. So a touchdown passes, and an Andra Franklin 1-yard run has made the difference. Talk about Andra Franklin. A gain of maybe 1. 3rd down and call it 4. Spoke of Philadelphia, a couple of field goals, and that was it against the Bears defense. From the shotgun, Marino. Oh, knocked away. Intended for Tony Nathan, and Quentin Ballard, the left defensive end, the rookie out of Elon College. All 6'3", 289 pounds, was back to tip it away. So Reg Roby kick it away with 2 minutes to play in the 3rd.
Here we see Quentin Ballard out there in the flat. I wondered what he's doing all the way out in the flat there for a defensive end, but he makes a very good play. Tips the ball away.
Long count here. Roby's got it. All the time he needs it. Oh, does he boom it? Ricky Porter backing way up, has it at the 23, fumbles it, picks it up, and is down. And again, it is Robert Sowell, the man downfield harassing Ricky Porter. Clock stops, 1:50 to play. Now, if the scores around the league hold, Buffalo is losing big to New England. Miami winning big over the Colts here at Memorial Stadium. As you look at New England, even stretching it out more now over the Bills, Buffalo and Miami would be tied for first place in the East, with Baltimore and New England just 1 game back. Pagel. And he'll run for the first down. And more out of bounds. Splash, splash, right into the hands of Barry Krause. To be miserable on that playing field now, Bob.
It really is. You know, it may be my imagination, but hasn't Baltimore been in the mud most of the game here today? I mean, I think they have been down in that dirt part of the infield for most of the time
this game, Mike Pagel is criticized for not looking the field over, really looking more to run and scamper rather than setting and looking downfield.
Yeah, he was looking over to the right side that time, and we see Ray Butler really running open.
McMillan recovering in the goal backfield.
So a loss of 4. Ball now on to 39. It'll be second down and 15. Got a loss of 5. Matt Booza comes out. Ray Butler coming just to the right of your screen. The setbacks, McMillan and Alvin Moore. Pagel out of the backfield. It was intended for Dickey. Third down and 15.
It's a little touch pass there with Dickey coming in front of the linebacker coverage right behind the defensive line. And oftentimes that's a tough situation for a quarterback because he has to put the ball over the defensive line, which we talked about Miami's being very tall to begin with, and then drop it in front of that linebacker coverage, which he couldn't do right there.
Booza, Porter, Ray Butler, the wide receivers. Dickey and Newton Williams are the running backs. Pagel. He hit Butler.
Miami is doubling both outside receivers, knowing that Baltimore has to throw the ball. And there, Pagel scrambled. He ran out of the pocket when he was pressured. And Butler actually made a pretty good move working back toward the quarterback. Whenever a quarterback scrambles, receivers are taught to work back toward him to try and give him a target to be able to throw at.
I look for Ron Stark to fake this punt. He's in the mud. You're down by 21 points with 15 seconds to play on the third. If he has any chance at all, he may try and toss a pass or run for it. He's looking things over right now.
Miami usually doesn't get tricked that easily.
Now the quarter ends. So they'll change ends of the field, which will give Stark perhaps better footing from which to punt. 15 minutes to play here at the rain-soaked Memorial Stadium in Baltimore, where the Colts on the short end of a 21-0 score. We'll be right back after these messages from your local station. The U.S. Cars and Trucks of the 14th Olympic Winter Games. Chevrolet and you taking charge. By Bud Light, the best has a taste all its own. And by Kentucky Fried Chicken, we do chicken right. Bill Stone, along with Bob Chandler, as the Colts appear to be punting the football away on 4th and 4. It is Ron Stark, and he will kick it away after a snap that came rolling back to him. That's Clayton. And he is nailed at third base. Greg Braceland on the stop. The Dolphins, who have been able to do nothing here in the second half, will try again. Bob, I said going into the break, I didn't think the Dolphins were moving the ball well in the second half, and I kind of have the feeling that that man right there isn't trying to do a whole lot.
No, I think he would be more than happy to come out of here with a 21-0 victory today.
First and 10. Give right up the middle. It's Tony Nathan. Right now, all Shula and the Dolphins want to do is keep that clock running. Final end from Buffalo. The Bills on the short end. A 31-0 whipping by the New England Patriots. Atlanta, after trailing 21-0, has just taken a 24-21 lead over the floundering Jets. 32-yard field goal by Nick Luckers with 3:42 to play. Washington laying it all over the Detroit Lions, 38-17. 14-11 to play here at Baltimore. 21-0 Miami. That's Franklin, and he is hit at the line of scrimmage. Possibly a yard. Now this time the Dolphins will not go out of the shotgun on 3rd and 5. But Marino trying to keep the football, lays it out to Nathan on the screen. He's got the first down and more. Clock continuing to run, 13-12. A first down for the Dolphins. Another final score rolling in. It is now a final at RFK Stadium, Washington, defeating the Lions 38-17. Heisman, a couple of touchdown passes to Art Monk and Joe Washington. Reggie Evans scored a touchdown, make it 2. Mosley a field goal. Moore in motion to give right up the gut, Andre Franklin. Take a look at that. This is where just trying to stay on your feet is tough.
All right, back in New York, let me show you the game that just started in the Kingdome. Franco Harris from 9 yards away on the Steelers' first drive so quickly. Pittsburgh on top of the Seahawks, 7-0. Let's go back to Baltimore now.
That's a big, big game for both the Steelers and the Seattle Seahawks. That game at the Kingdome. Of course, the Steelers 5-2 in the AFC Central. Seattle, with a victory today, could move to within a half game of the Raiders, depending on what Los Angeles does tonight against the Cowboys. Whistle sound. Marino is down, and Cooper tries to run under it. Good defense by Randall Tate. Tate, a late acquisition by Frank Cush and the Baltimore Colts. Really, they needed to go out and get another defensive back because of the Derek Hatchett incident, Bob.
Yeah, well, Derek has decided that he doesn't want to play for the Baltimore Colts, so he's done everything possible to try and get out of here. Here Marino lofts it up. You know, we heard a whistle. I'm not sure what happened, but it's a smart play for Marino to go ahead with the play regardless of whether he hears a whistle or not, because oftentimes it turns out to be a free play.
Shotgun, 3rd down and 7. Inside handoff, that's Nathan. And he is way short of the first down. Vernon Maxwell. What a job with help from Sanders Shiver.
We haven't heard too much today from Vernon Maxwell, and it's interesting how over the past few weeks, offenses have been able to kind of neutralize Vernon Maxwell. He was leading the NFL in sacks after the first 2 weeks, and since then he's really been kind of ineffective because what they've done is put somebody up in his face. He's not a real big physical guy. He's just a fast, very active linebacker. So by putting people up in his face, they've kept him out of a lot of the action over the last few weeks.
Robion to punt it away again. Porter, fair catch at the 20-yard line. He had 10 yards to run with the football.
I think that's something he would like to take back there.
Clock stops on the change of possessions. 10 minutes, 49 seconds to play. Miami by 3 touchdowns. The Packers are at it again. Dickey to Jefferson, and then Lynn came back and hit Mike Mead with 25 seconds. Make that 2 seconds left to send that one into overtime. Pagel ducks under the rush, then comes out and hits Tim Sherwin, who's tied in.
Under these adverse conditions, you know, I've been pretty impressed by Mike Pagel today. When he has had to scramble, he's still looked for his receivers and he's tried to throw the ball. And he's been able to maneuver around a lot of that intense pressure that the Miami defense has been putting on him.
Now the Colts passing attack, 26th in the league in effectiveness. Not good. That is Dickey. But yet their running attack is first in all of football. The question becomes, Bob, what are the biggest differences? Why is an offensive line perhaps so good at blocking for the run and perhaps not so good at blocking against the pass?
Well, I think to begin with, the statistics are probably a little bit deceiving. They're number 1 in the rush because they run the ball so much. They have 2 very fine runners, and so drive blocking for
took on Gerald Small and knocked him into yesterday. Lyle Blackwood finally knocks him out of bounds, but Gerald Small will think about hitting McMillan again.
Yeah, you don't want to come up and hit a 225-pound back like that. You know, you got to give them credit for that at this stage of the game. I mean, McMillan and Dickey are still running hard, and that's one of those things we talked about earlier where they pick up a lot of their yardage on second effort.
Pagel, right over the middle of Sherwin, knocks it up in the air. It falls harmlessly to the mud. Lyle Blackwood, good coverage.
That's a very good read by Mike Pagel. What they're doing is they're doubling both outside receivers by rolling up their defensive backs on them and then covering them with somebody else deep. And so the guy to go to in that situation is your tight end who can find that hole or that seam in the middle, which Sherwin did there, but he couldn't catch the ball.
The Dolphins return to the Orange Bowl next Sunday to take on the Los Angeles Rams. Pagel rolls right, steps left, unloads a strike intended for Bernard Henry, and he cannot hold it. A problem that has plagued this Colts offense the entire year. Receivers who cannot hold on to the football. In the first half, Ray Butler dropped one, and here in the second half, Booza, and now Bernard Henry, who cannot hold on.
Yeah, that's very discouraging because that's 30 yards of receptions right there that should have been made. Pagel does that little half roll to buy himself a little extra time and has been picking out the right receiver most of the day.
Pagel's numbers, 11 completions, 134 yards, and an interception. 3rd and 10. 9 minutes, 21 seconds to play on this ball game. Pagel unloads Booza. It is intercepted by Gerald Small. And Tracy Porter brings him down. The second interception of Pagel today, the 4th turnover by the Baltimore Colts, and more importantly, it gives the Dolphins the ball. Excellent field position. Miami also owning a 21-0 lead.
Mike Pagel, his big mistake here, which is one of the first he's made today, is he's throwing into that double coverage, which is impossible to do. Gerald Small, who was the short man in the coverage, and he was backed up with some help back there by the free safety, managed to just fall off and pick off the ball. That's a mistake that Cush was afraid that Pagel would make if they got into a situation where they had to throw the ball very often this afternoon.
There's a great shot right there. More in motion. Andre Franklin through the right side. He is into the Colts secondary. Picks up about 5 yards on the play. Burrows with help from Cliff Odom.
Well, Phil, 14,000 people decided not to show up today and stay home and listen to the game on radio, I think.
Do you blame them?
No, I'm freezing up here in the booth. I think the temperature's dropped about 10 degrees since we started.
Now there's the turnovers I spoke of a moment ago. A couple of interceptions and 2 fumbles. Second down. Matt Moore in motion. That is Tony Nathan, 50 year out of Alabama. I want to know how little confidence Shula has in the Dolphins' rushing attack this year. They have thrown now 15 touchdown passes and have rushed for only 4 touchdowns.
And that's something that probably you can't go back. You have to go back many years to find a Miami team that has done that. When they get down inside the 20, notoriously they've been a team that would run the ball in.
Atlanta has taken a lead over the Jets, 27-21. 7:42 to play here. The ball is on the ground. And it was Dan Marino recovering his own fumble. Another score. It is over at Lambeau Field in Green Bay, where the Minnesota Vikings, on a Benny Ricardo field goal from 32 yards out, have defeated the Packers 20-17.
we said, Miami's been pretty mistake-free today, but here's something that's probably inevitable on a day like this. At least one bad connection between the center and the cornerback. Marino was fortunate enough to fall on it.
Reggie Roby. Oh, he slipped when he tried to come through on that one. That's Ricky Porter at the 15. Out across the 20, near the 24. Mike Kozlowski on the stop. The Colts will have the football. They've got a long way to go and only 7 minutes to get there.
The Seahawks from Seattle take on the Raider Rampage from L.A. And the New York Jets blast off against the tough San Francisco 49ers. Plus other regional action only on NBC.
7 minutes, 1 second to play in the ball game. Miami 21, Baltimore nothing. And the Colts have the football, 1st and 10 at the 24. Pagel unloads. That's McMillan, and he has got running room and banged out of bounds by Charles Bowser. I want to remind you to stay tuned to NBC. As soon as we finish up here at Memorial Stadium in Baltimore, we'll be taking you to the Kingdome in Seattle, where the Pittsburgh Steelers already own a 7-0 lead over the Seahawks. Franco Harris, a 9-yard run. Another score, first quarter at Tampa Bay. It's the Bucks 14. The New Orleans Saints nothing. There's a surprise. One of your former buddies.
John McKay may win his first game today.
Yeah. Pagel trying to stand up. Can't do it. Again, it is Bowser. I started to say one of your former teammates, Kenny Stabler. Can't be liking what's going on there.
Kenny Stabler's had an amazing year this year. He seems ageless. He never could. In the last 5 or 6 years, he hasn't been able to run, and he's putting it together for New Orleans.
Now that's Charles Bowser, who has played one whale of a game this afternoon at linebacker for the Dolphins.
Well, that's something they definitely can't afford to have happen. So they have lost everybody, and they've even played Kozlowski, one of their defensive backs, at linebacker oftentimes this year. And if Bowser's hurt, he may have to go in there and play at a linebacker at a 195-pound defensive back.
Well, we documented early in this telecast how many linebackers the Dolphins have lost. Of course, just to recap, back in June, the tragic death of Larry Gordon, a heart attack in Arizona while preparing for training camp. And then Steve Scholl went down toward knee ligaments. Ron Hester, bone chips. And Larry Evans, a severe knee sprain. Emmett Tilley, a separated shoulder. Ernie Rowe, pneumonia. He is out of the hospital. He's already missed a couple of games. Mark Brown, a bad, what's kind of like a turf toe. A.J. Dewey out with a severe groin pull. And now Bowser down and appears to be hurt because he is not getting up. And today, because of that massive number of injuries to the linebacking core, Bob Chandler, the Dolphins had to alter their defense considerably, going from a much more comfortable 3-4 alignment to the 4-3 alignment. What does that do to your defense? What has that done to Bill Arnsparger?
Well, first of all, it's a tribute to Bill Arnsparger that they can play as effectively in a defense that is not really their forte. The 3-4 has become their number one defense. They've had to adjust because of the injuries, and they've made it work. The players believe in him. He puts a system up there before the week, and they work it out. And it's a tribute to what a fine coach he really is.
I understand last week during the game against the Jets, when Dewey went out very early and then Emmett Tilley went down, that Arnsparger grabbed a clipboard and redesigned the entire defense during the game against New York. That's McMillan. He tries to dive out across the 35-yard line, and I think he came down right on the stripe. Not out of bounds. Clock continues to run with 6 minutes and 17 seconds to play. It'll be 3rd down and long.
Well, you know, it was interesting what Frank Kush said yesterday about Arnsparger. He said he's forgotten more football than I ever knew, which is a real tribute coming from a guy like Frank Kush, who is a very qualified coach, to a guy that everybody throughout the NFL very much respects, and that's Bill Arnsparger.
Mother Nature, not content to mess things up on the playing field, she also apparently feels she can be a pretty good producer, because she has taken our sideline camera away from us, we understand. Our technical crew working feverishly to restore our ground level. Now Pagel, under heavy pressure, goes down, trying to unload to Randy McMillan.
I think think, Phil, if we have to lose the camera, I think the ground level one's the best to lose because we don't want to be down in that slop anyway.
Now there's a man who ought to be awarded a Congressional Medal of Honor. Barry Fisher, you're doing a whale of a job down there. Got to make sure we get a snorkel and fins down to him before too much longer. 5 minutes 40 to play. Ron Stark is on. To boot it away. Fulton Walker back at his own 23-yard line. Stark, well, he has punted remarkably well in this stuff. Fulton Walker's got running room. 2 Colts miss him. He is finally down by the punter himself, Ron Stark. A decent return out near the 45-yard line. Give or take 5 yards.
Well, Fulton had a big week last week, and here, you know, he was really on his way, and Ron Stark makes the tackle. Ron Stark is one of those new breed of kickers who's a very fine athlete. I'm not saying they weren't in the past, but these are some quality athletes. He was a decathlon star. As you said, he can throw the ball. He throws right-handed, and he kicks left-footed. He's a very versatile guy, and I kind of agree with you. I'm surprised that we haven't seen him try something during this game when they've needed to make a big play or a surprise play.
There's a timeout on the playing field with 5 minutes and 27 seconds to play. The Miami Dolphins totally dominating here this afternoon. With Bob Chandler from a rain-soaked Memorial Stadium in Baltimore. 5:27 to play on this ball game. The Dolphins 21, Baltimore nothing. Nat Moore in motion. The give right up the middle. It is Tony Nathan. Ball pops loose. And I believe it was whistled down, and it was. So the Dolphins will retain possession. Up at Shea Stadium in New York, the New York Jets scored the first 21 points of the ball game, and then it was all Atlanta. Bartkowski, a couple of touchdown passes. Billy White Shoes Johnson, a 71-yard punt return. And then Mick Luckhurst, 2 field goals with 3 minutes 42 seconds to play and 1:48 remaining at Shea. And that has been the difference. Atlanta 27, the Jets 21. That game is history now in New York. 2nd and 6. Little trap play. Ball pops loose. And the Colts have got it.
Well, Phil, that's the thing they were worried about with David Overstreet. He's been fumbling. Like I said earlier, as I said earlier, Shula is trying to work him in to give him some confidence. He gets a clean handoff here. There you see him going in. Marino had to stretch a little bit, but he has possession of the ball, just not protecting it as well as he should with both arms when he's running into heavy traffic like that.
Well, credit Cliff Odom. What a hit he put on Overstreet, and it was Vernon Maxwell who fell on it. The first turnover by Miami today, and that is saying something when you consider we have had a driving downpour since opening kickoff. Play action, Pagel. And he underthrows Tim Sherwin. Incomplete, I believe. The ball did bounce, it did. 3 officials converge.
That's just a matter of Pagel not being able to plant his feet and get the ball out there. He's been a little, if he hasn't thrown over on his misconnections today, he's been a little short on his passes, and that turf has a lot to do with it. You've got to take the time to set up and throw the ball.
Bob, the Baltimore Colts, losing this one to the Dolphins, will have lost 2 of their last 3, all at home here. And now they head on the road next week to take on Philadelphia and then to Shea to meet the Jets. That has got to be a tough task if you can't win at home. How are you going to win on the road? Right over the top, Sherwin, the tight end, bounces off Blackwood. And Kozlowski right into the arms of Kerry Totolo.
You know, as far as being on the road, Kush is kind of happy to get back on the road. He feels that the player, let's take a look at this pass here to Sherwin. They're doubling both outside receivers, which they've been doing this whole second half. Sherwin finds that open hole over the middle, makes a good catch with his hands on a very slippery ball, and picks up another 7 yards.
First down, the ball at the 23, through the left side. Pick up a 3 or 4. McMillan again.
Back to getting on the road. When Coach Kush said he's kind of happy to get back out on the road, he feels his players feel like they're under a little bit more pressure to perform well here, and thinks they may even play
that's Alvin Moore checking in, so it'll be Moore and McMillan. There is Frank Kush. On second down and 7, Pagel plants. Now unloads. That is Butler.
Interception and comes up a little bit short. Butler's got pretty good height, and it was a good throw by Pagel.
Now that's the first score we have had since midway through the second period. Stark puts it down. Allegre sends a line drive right over the crossbar. It ain't pretty, but it got the job done. So the Colts with a touchdown and a point after are on the board. Now trail the Dolphins 21-7 with 3 minutes and 13 seconds to play. Want to remind you, coming up next, stay with us for the second half of our NBC NFL doubleheader. You'll see the Pittsburgh Steelers against the Seattle Seahawks from the Kingdome in Seattle.
Touchdown play to Butler. Pagel got good protection. He was able to stand in the pocket. You see him plant his feet there. Gerald Small makes a decision to go for the interception and comes up short.
Now, as Kush said yesterday, the one thing he has to teach his second-year quarterback is to stay in the pocket, plant, and then throw. You can't throw when you're dancing. But in all due respect to Mike Pagel, he has been under such intense pressure all year long, Mike. As I said at the outset of the telecast, Bob, he has gotten sacked 18 times coming in, 3 more times today. It has to become difficult standing there and taking that kind of pressure.
It sure does. I think if I see anybody, if I saw all those big guys coming at me, I'd start dancing a little bit too. It's tough to let that pass rush go by you as you step up in the pocket. Your natural tendency is to try and get away from it.
Allegre onside, and it went 10 yards, and I think the Colts have it. The flags are down.
The Colts may have touched that before it went 10 yards.
I think you're absolutely right.
And if so, they're going to have to kick it over again.
Yeah, why the officials talk things over. I want to thank our stats man, John Schneider, our spotters, Ron Thomas and Charlie Coliani.
What Miami has in here is they have their
10 yards.
Touched it before it went 10 yards. You'll see it here. It's about at 8 yards right there, and the kicker Allegre touches it himself. In a situation like that on an onside kick, Miami puts all the people on the front line in what they call their onside kick return team. Guys that are supposedly have good hands that can handle the football.
Yeah, with Allegre, Bob, getting such tremendous elevation on his kicks, I wouldn't be surprised to maybe see him try and drop one over the front line here.
That's a real possibility. Once you've tried the onside kick, you know Miami has their onside kick team in there. They're ready for it. But in conditions like this, it's still a good shot at it. Somebody could make a mistake.
3 minutes, 10 seconds to play. The Colts need the football and a couple of touchdowns to go with it. Ball pops loose. I think the Dolphins might have covered this one. Now they're still fighting for it down there.
That's the most dangerous pile right there to be in football.
And the Dolphins have it. Well, the onside attempt goes awry, and the Miami Dolphins with a 21-7 lead, 3 minutes and 4 seconds to play.
It's a pretty good attempt. It's a good onside kick here, and all you're really hoping for is that somebody in that front line makes a mistake. They managed to cover up the ball. It did get loose there, but they had enough Dolphins around it to grab it, hold on to it.
And it was Joe Rose who came up with the loose ball.
We've got another injury out there that occurred. And that's what I wasn't really joking. I didn't mean to make it sound like a joke when I said that that's one of the most dangerous pileups to be in, because people are doing everything they can to try and get a hold of the ball, and one of the Dolphins got hurt in that pileup.
As if it was Robert Sowell. I believe it was. There's a score from the Kingdome in Seattle. Pittsburgh 14-0. Harris with a 9-yard run. Quarterback Cliff Stout a 1-yard scamper. Now the Dolphins huddle around their injured player. 3 minutes and 4 seconds to go. From the 43-yard line. Tony Nathan. And he slams his way across the 30, near the 35-yard line. Stopped short near the 37. Steve Parker on the tackle.
You know, I can tell you what's on both of these teams' minds right now. Miami wants to get into that shower and see what it feels like to get some of this dirt off and get in that warm shower. And Baltimore is really concerned about continuing to play tough during this last 2.5 minutes, because they know they're going to have to deal with Frank Kush come Monday. And that's kind of a scary experience for these guys.
Second down and 5. 2 minutes and 22 seconds to play. Franklin through the right side, and he's still on his feet. Tripped up finally by Randall Tate, second year out of Texas Tech. Clock continues to run. We'll tick down to the 2-minute warning. And the clock stops with 2 minutes to play. Miami 21, the Baltimore Colts 7.
Alcoa presents Fantastic Finishes, 1982. Cleveland's Brian Sipe uncorks a looping do-or-die pass that looks like it will be intercepted by the Eagles' Roy L. Young. But no, it's stolen for a touchdown by Ozzie Newsome of the Browns. Cleveland fans rejoice with less than a minute to go, but Philadelphia roars right back. With only 25 seconds left, hard-running Leroy Harris steamrollers Eddie Johnson and lunges into the end zone. A sweet win for Dick Vermeil.
Miami 21, Baltimore 7. The Dolphins on the move, and take a look at that, if you will. The Colts owning the yardage statistic against the Dolphins today, but as you have heard us say many, many times, statistics often do not tell the story. That's Andre Franklin fighting his way inside the 25-yard line. Johnny Cook's on the stop. Running a minute 45, minute 44. Don't forget, stay tuned to NBC throughout the day. The second half of our doubleheader, we'll be taking you to a dry Kingdome in Seattle, where the Steelers already on top of the Seahawks 14-0. Stay with NBC News all day and all evening long for the latest developments on the tragedy in Beirut, Lebanon early today. Second and 9. Andre Franklin hit in the backfield. Great pursuit by the Colts offensive line and linebacker Cliff Odom.
Phil, we've talked today several times about the success of the Colts running game with McMillan and Dickey. And you know, one of their offensive backfield coach, Roger Theater, does an interesting thing. Saturday night before a game, he puts together a highlight film of their best runs throughout the season, and they sit and watch it. And he thinks, and it really works. He says it makes them believe that they feel very good about themselves and that they're good players. And he said it carries over into the game and it helps their performance tremendously each week.
You kidding me? Those guys just want to be in that highlight film the following week. That's Overstreet. And again, he gets just about back to the line of scrimmage, and he is snowed under. Clock stops. Timeout. Baltimore Colts on 4th down and about 9. Coming up next, the Steelers and the Seahawks. Don Shula, he has had it tough this year, particularly the last few weeks. As you heard earlier on NFL 83, USFL New Jersey Generals owner Don Trump still trying to get Don Shula talked into coming over and taking over as head coach of the Generals.
Well, I asked him about that, and he really didn't want to give me a real straight answer. He was pretty non-committal. He said that he's very concerned about his team this year, and he's got a football season to finish, and pretty much left it to whatever has been said has been speculation. But with the kind of numbers they're talking about, I think anybody would have to take a long, hard, serious look at that offer.
Of course, the public figures say that Trump and the USFL is offering Shula $1 million a year, part ownership in the Generals, and the Baltimore TV stations and press today are saying that the only thing standing in the way is Shula wants one of those $2.5 million condominiums there and the Trump Tower right in the middle of Manhattan. And Trump still has not responded to that. David Overstreet through the right side. Little extracurricular activity down there on the playing field.
What we're going to see here is just a little bit of Baltimore's frustration. There's Vernon Maxwell, who's been pretty much stymied all day long. He's made a few big plays, but not nearly the kind of activity that he got accustomed to the first 2 weeks of the season. And tempers flare a little bit when the guys get frustrated like this. They look at a game like this and they wish they could have had a better afternoon. And here we see where San Francisco is falling behind the Rams in the second quarter, 7-0. The Rams look like they're for real this year also, Phil.
Now they're in a dead heat for first place in the NFC West, and it was Ferragamo to George Farmer from 13 yards away early in the second period.
No foul, 56. That's a first down.
Now the personal foul, says Ben Dreith, against Vernon Maxwell. A first down for Miami at the 10-yard line. 17 seconds remaining. Now next week, the Miami Dolphins home against the Los Angeles Rams, and the Dolphins in a tie for first place now with the Buffalo Bills. Ball's down, and I believe the Dolphins have recovered their own fumble. 7 seconds remaining. 5. That'll be the last play of this ball game. So the first place Dolphins tied with the Buffalo Bills. The Baltimore Colts will have to regroup as they head for Philadelphia a week from today. Bob Chandler, this is Phil Stone saying so long from Baltimore. Once again, the final score, the Dolphins 21, the Colts 7. Shula, as his Dolphins have defeated Frank Cush's Baltimore Colts